for joining. Christine, I think we can get started.
I'm ready to go. Welcome. Good evening, everyone, to the Clearing the Air in Coeymans Community Forum. My name is Christine Primomo. I'm a retired nurse. I'm a resident of Coeymans and a member of the Clean Air Coalition of Greater Ravenna Coeymans. Our group started with a few town residents in 2019, but now includes scores of volunteers who are working to ensure that our local and state laws protect clean air in our town, in Albany County, and the wider Capital District. Tonight, you'll learn how the Lafarge Wholesome Cement Plant in Ravenna, with the help of local officials, sidestepped the Albany County Clean Air Bill that was passed last year. And you're going to hear about this decades-long struggle of residents of Cohoes who live next to the Norlite hazardous waste incinerator. I ask myself all the time, why are giant multinational companies, one located next to our high school and middle school and another in an environmental justice community, so determined to burn toxic waste and tires in our backyards? What does that mean for the health of our children, our air and our soil, our water, our homes, and our quality of life? Where are the regulatory agencies that are supposed to protect public health from these kinds of environmental hazards?
Just a little background in speaking about the Coeymans Clean Air Act, which was passed in 2019. The Coeymans Clean Air Act at the time was the toughest clean air law in the state. And what the Clean Air Act sought was to limit the amount of waste being burned in a town, and also to require that Lafarge had a continuous monitoring of certain pollutants that were actually not being monitored by EPA and DEC. New York law has something that is called the home rule, which gives local governments authority to regulate their own community. So under this home rule, a town like Coeymans can pass its own law, and by passing its own law, they can opt out of the protections of the county law. But again, why would someone want to do that if the county of Albany has a law that is protecting the air that we breathe? Why would someone want to amend that? Well, I learned of those amendments on the evening before it was adopted. It was November 22nd. I received an email saying, let's protest the amendments to the Coeymans Clean Air Law, which goes to show how publicized that was. It wasn't really very publicized. If the town of Coeymans was concerned about being sued by Lafarge, all they needed to do would be to repeal the law entirely, because we would have fallen under the jurisdiction of the Albany County law. That's one option. The other option would have been to simply not do anything to the law, because the Albany law, the Albany County law is more protective than ours, and our clean air law had a provision that said if there is a county or a state law that is stricter than ours, then that law applies. When Albany law passes its own law, our board didn't have to do anything, because you would have fallen under the jurisdiction of the county anyway. What we are concerned about with our coalition is that by amending the law in the manner that our town board did, in essence, they obliterated the law. They eliminated any protections for our town. And ironically, they also did the same for all of our neighbors, even though the county of Albany prohibits the burning of waste and tires. In the town of Coeymans, this is not allowed, and it has consequences to our neighbors as well.
I thought the best thing I could do for you is to give you a lens through which you could see the problem. Tire burning is very bad. Mike Ewald has done a great job of showing, here's all the pollutants that increase when you burn tires. And it's the most toxic pollutants. You get more metals, you get more PAHs, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, you get more dioxin. Of the buffet of toxicity, the things that are most toxic are the things that are increasing. Okay. 20 years ago, we weren't really sure, what was going to come out when we burned tires in a cement kiln. Now we have a really good idea. It's some of the most toxic chemicals that come out of a stack. Your cement kiln is renowned in the world of the cement kiln activists because you have a school. You have a school complex in between your quarry and your cement plant. It has to be one of the most adverse and frustrating land uses that many of us have ever seen, where you have your most sensitive receptors, people that you do not want exposed to toxic chemicals, literally in between your limestone quarry and your kiln. So you have a lot of moral high ground there to stand upon. Like, you don't want this. The cement industry has to pay for its fuel. And the fuel cost is one of its largest expenditures. Trash used to be mostly paper, but now trash is mostly plastic. The plastic component of trash in your own household, if you think about what you're throwing away, well, that plastic is a fossil fuel derivative. It actually has, BTUs in it. It would actually burn. Now what we see is this growing interest from the sustainable cement movement to reduce greenhouse gases by lowering coal burning and to burn waste. And tires are like the ticket that allows you to say, I'm burning waste in this kiln. Now let's go burn this other waste, and let's go burn this other waste. So it's like the entrance exam to get into college, right? A lot of times what we see is that kilns start burning tires, then they want to start burning other stuff. So it's like a gateway into burning more things. The other thing is adding different materials to clinker to reduce the amount of clinker, which is like the glue that holds the sand and aggregate together for cement, is to add different materials to that. Things like blast furnace slag and municipal waste burning, incineration fly ash. All of these things, when you add these things to the cement production process at a kiln itself, you increase the toxicity. A lot of cement plants get paid a tipping fee to burn tires. A lot of cement plants get paid a tipping fee to burn waste. So now instead of having to buy coal, they're getting paid to take a waste. If you can look at the problem that you're facing in your community from their perspective, from Lafarge's perspective, think about how they benefit from what they're proposing to do, and think about how your community is burdened. Okay, so I've never come across a situation where you've got a large multinational company that's a major polluter. Now, the cement industry is one of the largest polluters in the world. The greenhouse gases they emit are the industry-wide are more than many medium-sized countries. They also emit massive amounts of particulate matter. When you look at the top 100 PM 2.5 emitters in the country, you will see cement plants scattered in there everywhere. They're about money, and what they care about is their bottom line, and that's why they want to burn waste.
The number one burden is our children, plain and simple. That's what this comes down to. I'm a teacher, 28 years teaching on that facility directly across from Lafarge. I've coached on the fields, sent my kids to those schools. I've been the energy manager there when we had a six-year program, and we used to have to, the filters on top of the building on humid days would get caked up with the concrete dust, and we'd have to change out the filters so that they would actually give us money to do some of that. But we don't know, we never looked at what else was in those things. And I'll be honest, in my early years there, I never really thought about what was in there. And that was one of the problems that I think a lot of us faced. So the real burden in all this is our developing young adults sitting directly across the street, playing, having recess, being nice and innocent out there, and what it's doing to their brains and their bodies. When I first got elected, Coeymans was just trying to pass their law. And so what we decided at the county level was we didn't know how it was going to turn out. We thought the election might get turned and the board might flip down in Coeymans, which it did. So we began working at the county level to come up with a bill that would take away the problems in Coeymans and just override it, take care of it. We learned very quickly, as you've heard, that the environmental conservation law let the local municipalities be able to get around that if they so choose. Now, we knew this coming in. We had some people on our team, a couple that are sitting here tonight, that wanted us to go even stronger, but we had to pass a bill that we could get bipartisan support, even our own caucus on, and then also bipartisan support that our lawyers would go for as well. So knowing that was an issue going in, we also knew that here's the one part about that law. Not only would Coeymans have to amend their law, they would have to expressly allow the burning of tires. Okay, they had a very strong law that said they couldn't, and quite honestly, when they ran in their town, the new board that tried to take over, they ran on non-repealing because they knew if they repealed, the county law would then take effect and they would not be able to burn at all. So our law was really about a burn ban. It was about protecting the entire county from burning any new wastes, particularly tires or any other kind of hazardous waste beyond what was already being burned. We weren't trying to shut down any businesses that were already doing some of that, but we were stopping anything new from coming. And that was the idea of the tires. We need to now turn around and get to our state leaders and get a statewide ban on this, which would override that. They wouldn't be able to overcome that. So I would urge all of you to start talking to the people at the state legislature and start trying to build that kind of support at that level. Beyond the dioxins and the furans and all this other stuff that they're the #1 polluters on is benzoate pyrene. And that is, for people that don't know, that's a chemical that we discovered directly, was our first direct link to smoking and lung cancer, right? They knew that this immediately, that chemical mutates the P53 gene, which is called the guardian angel gene. It checks our DNA all day long to make sure there's no problems. And if it's there, it fixes it. And benzoate pyrene directly mutates that protector gene, right? And they're already, Mike said in 2017, I think his report was they were the #1 polluter for benzoate pyrene. So, when we did this bill, they sent out a lot of scientists, a lot of people to talk science at the county ledge meetings. And I just would caution that some of the stuff saying is not untrue, but it's how they sell it. Burning tires does lower the greenhouse emissions by about, I think it was 2% or so. So that's a good thing, but they don't tell you the other part about what it also puts into the air. So yes, they're lowering some of the greenhouse gases, but they're putting way more dangerous chemicals into our air, into our water. I mean, we're talking about clean air here, but don't forget the water, don't forget the soil. We are somewhat still a farming community down there. And that's can't be overlooked at all. What's being missed in a lot of this is it's not all about Lafarge in this particular case. Lafarge is going to be the benefactor of this process of burning fuel to lower their costs and increase their profit, okay? But they have to get the tires from somewhere. And what's being missed in all of this is a gentleman named Carver Laraway and the Carver companies, okay? And they have essentially, he and his company has taken over Coeymans. I've taken the joking, calling it no longer the town of Coeymans, but it's the town of Carver, okay? Because they came in, they didn't like what's going on. He got a large contract with the New York State DEC to collect tires. I believe it was a $10 million contract to collect waste tires from around New York State. Well, this guy's got to do something with those tires. And conveniently, directly across the street from him, with a big conveyor belt right there, is Lafarge, who wants to burn tires. And if anybody knows the history of Coeymans, when I first moved there in the early 90s, the big battle was still going on because Albany wanted to move the dump down there, the landfill. And they were able to successfully fight that. And I see some people on here tonight that were very big in that fight. And they fought that off for a lot of different reasons. They were able to do so. But what Carver's doing is trying to renew that effort quietly and through the back door. He's looking to bring a big solid waste industry to the river. He's got the port already. He's got nearby rail service. And they've actually asked the town already to add a throughway entrance directly from, it would be a truck only, business only exit from the throughway directly into the area, the industrial area that they have created back there that he's in charge of, that he owns. So they truck all the tires in, they could rail the tires in, and they can bring the stuff in and by water as well. Why does that all come into play? Well, it is a depressed area. We're talking about environmental justice issues here. All right. We're talking about a situation where it is a very depressed area and lower income area. And Carver has thrown money around like crazy. He's buying up houses. He's tearing down decrepit ones. He's putting some money into building new ones. They built all new roads in that area and fixed some of the problems that have been there for a long, long time that the town couldn't do. They put a ton of money into politics to turn the board over, created the Friends of Coeymans Facebook site. And now they sort of own the town. They can do whatever they want. It all comes down, all right, to all of our health. It should be people over profits, and we have to protect the children in not only Coeymans, but across the river and in whole of Albany County.
In my eyes, it's just sick that Lafarge is located pretty much right next to a school. And I actually have a connection to that too, because I used to play soccer for Cohoes, and we would go up there and we would play soccer, and I'd be like, wow, that facility kind of looks familiar, because I was just so used to big industry like that, because living 100 feet from Norlite at Saratoga sites, I was like, wow, I wonder what they do over there. And then I would see, oh, I believe that the soccer field was donated by Lafarge, or they give them money, and our soccer team would always love to play at Ravenna because of the nice fields. But little did we realize that as we were running around and, using our lungs to the max capacity, the stuff that we might have been breathing in at that time. So I just want to say it's just a really sick image. And it really proves that this is a community issue. My air is your air. And we have to treat it with a sense of responsibility. And we have to hold these companies accountable for what they do. This weekend will actually be 1 year since we found out of the AFFF incineration at Norlite. And here we are today. Just what Matt Miller was saying, you just have no idea what you're breathing in, because you're living life. You're doing what you need to do to get by. And that's just especially what the people at Saratoga sites are doing. They're just trying to get by because it's a low income area, and there's no other way to say it. And it's an unfortunate reality, because the DEC definitely says that this area is a environmental justice area. And what would that mean to you? He's like, oh, environmental justice area. They're really focused on getting what, looking into Norlite, looking into the salt kill that's right next to Norlite, really focusing on the air quality issues and water. And they just don't get it. And it's just a shame, because they actually have an on-site monitor. And the issues that we've brought up time after time after time, it's almost like it's brand new to them, which it isn't. If you go on their website, you see that there's been complaints of fugitive dust, smells, odors, people's lives being ripped apart, all documented on the DEC website from 1990. And that's just in the 90s. This facility has been here since, I believe, the late 50s. So it's just incredible that they allow this facility to do what they do, and especially down at Lafarge. Why would you allow a facility to operate so close to where your children are going to school, so close to where your children are trying to get an education? They're trying to learn, and they're trying to do the best that they can for themselves. And then down the road, people wonder why, in especially low-income areas, a lot of the children end up with learning disabilities because of the toxins that are infused into their bloods from these types of facilities. And it's a shame. And you would never see this type of facility in an area where people have money. You would never see it. And that's the honest truth. It's a sick truth, but it's the honest truth.